from that beginning, middle, and end of year information. Another thing that we realized that was very frustrating, I was a teacher last year as well, and it was very frustrating to know that our students were sitting at home taking their tests virtually, and we were unable to see if the students were truly answering the questions or if they had a lot of help from their parents. That was one reason that we were concerned that maybe K through 2 were scoring so well in math, is because they had too much help from their parents. Whereas 3 through 5, those parents are less active in the learning process anyways. So we thought maybe that's why they were tanking while the K through 2 were doing so well. So we had lots of questions because we weren't sure. It's unreliable and we didn't know those answers. Here is the original data. This was the first thing I did whenever I got this assignment for signature data. I created this survey and I asked the teachers, what do you think we are doing well to contribute to student learning? What can we do better to improve student learning? And what do you feel is top priority right now? I went ahead and highlighted this first one right here, the red. It says, find reliable data, not trust a tracker that doesn't work most of the time. So the report we pull at work that pulls this student data is not reliable. It had a lot of glitches last year, and on top of that, these students' tests were different throughout the year also. So reliable data was something I firmly felt like we needed to change. And then over on the side, find ways to be more efficient and resourceful to lighten up teachers' workload a bit. There's so much more to do as a virtual teacher. A lot more reports, a lot more paperwork, and a lot more phone calls and interaction with parents, honestly. Figuring out how to remove some of the duties from our teachers so we can plan. That was another thing we heard. And then another request was differentiation parent outreach. So looking through this, I was getting the same type of information just from this handful of teachers that filled this form out. This is just proof of the unreliability that we had. This is our K through 2 math interim comparison. If you will notice on this bar graph here, the blue is the advanced students. So you'll see at the beginning of the year, there were no advanced. I'm sorry, that's for kindergarten. That first one right there is kindergarten. You see how many advanced kids. It said the 5 and 6-year-olds were how many advanced versus first grade and versus second grade. I mean, we do have some very smart children, but for everyone to be so advanced is suspicious, especially when we come over here and look at this 3 through 5 data. We see that it looks a little more even, but it's a lot different from that K through 2. It makes you really suspicious about what happened. And then you see that there are hardly any blue compared to what the K through 2 had. It was a lot lower group. That below basic is the dark orange looking color there. You can see how much more there is there. It was just something that we were uneasy about as educators. We wanted to make sure we were making the best choices for our students. And so this was areas of concern for us. So here's the vision to fix these issues. The vision we had was to improve our student math scores by improving our parent-teacher relationships and our teacher collaboration times. Last year, collaboration was a hit or miss situation. We had some teachers that would get together for 10 minutes. They would very quickly discuss what they were talking about in class. They did not share strategies. They did not share lesson plans. And they did not share data. They did not discuss the data with each other, or teacher, student concerns, parent concerns, or anything like that. A lot of times when I would pop into meetings, they would be talking about the new clothes they bought on sale, or this cute little fun thing that they did over the weekend, or their new pet. It was just very discouraging to see things being done so incorrectly. We wanted to make collaboration meetings more intentional. Spending time with parents over the phone, nurturing relationships, and having all teachers using best practices and strategies will help achieve the growth we need. Professional development will be specific to address all areas to guide teachers in implementing their changes. And we will also use and monitor a math assessment that will be consistent for interims and all beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year tests. Students will be monitored virtually with cameras and microphones on to ensure students are taking the test independently. That last part has been the most exciting part because we are all on a mission to make this successful. It's very exciting. Some of the literature that I looked over, I actually found a lot more than I thought I would. I was very excited. This is just a few of the pieces and quotes that I pulled out of these books that have been very beneficial to me. It says, but to do what they are expected to do, they must not only know what they are expected to do, but also how they are expected to do it. This makes so much sense, but till it's spoken out like this, you don't think about it. People tend to be much more specific about what they expect by way of student performance than they are about what in classrooms would lead to the performance they desire. We had teachers that knew what we wanted the student data to look like, but they were unclear of how to get there. They needed more guidance in how they were supposed to teach it virtually and what we wanted those lessons and that planning time even to look like. And considering elementary schools is important in early stage of education, it is necessary to diagnose underachieved students and support them to prevent accumulating of their limited learning. And there have been much research done that shows if you can get a student excited at that K through 2 level, then that excitement and confidence will carry on with them throughout their learning career. The first important step to achieve the established is to address primary school teachers on contemporary literature dealing with mathematical content and to enhance their competency first with qualified knowledge. This is where we really want to make our professional development time and even our professional learning community time. We want that to all be very intentional, and we want our families to feel supported, but first we got to support those teachers so that they will know what's expected of them. All right, another one, this last one down here, it says methodological part of teachers' competence in problem teaching mathematics will be increased with the interest in improving the development of mathematical skills of their students by applying mathematical models and problem-solving tasks. That's a big part, is our teachers, because we're virtually, they didn't have those hand manipulatives right in front of them. So things that they could use brick and mortar, we're not going to be able to do as well virtually. It's not that it couldn't be done, it's just they had to think outside the box to make it possible. Because the students do have these manipulatives at home. We shift them to the students. But for the teachers to be able to show them those tools or those manipulatives and interact with the students, it was a challenge at first. So we've had to learn to leave our cameras on in class. Have your manipulatives ready to physically show your kids. We also use different types of cameras to where we can physically show our hands moving the manipulatives so that our students can see it and can follow along at home. But these are all things that we've had to be able to train teachers on, things that they didn't know, and some still don't know, and this is still a work in progress. More information says children can be provided with broader but meaningful early mathematical experiences to set a strong foundation early in life. This is that statistic I was mentioning earlier. If you consider it as an essential part of the child's daily lives and incorporate it into their learning experiences, it is particularly effective for fostering their mathematical thinking. And if teachers are able to identify those students with Tier 2 interventions through the use of those universal screeners, thankfully we now have a universal screener, they can monitor that growth and determine the impact and be more data-driven. Then we have our students' success in mathematics depends upon attitude towards mathematics. This is an area that is really struck close to home for me. It influences the learner's participation rate. So as our teacher morale was down last year, they were discouraged by those math scores. Guess what their lessons became? Very boring. I could promise you, I observed them. It was not fun. The face they made, even on camera, they looked so tired and just so drained. And it was because they were discouraged. They felt like the students weren't listening or they didn't care. They felt a disconnect. So we really wanted to strengthen that with phone calls, that interaction, those relationships, and also getting the teachers excited about the learning process again. We had to reignite in them what they do this for. Why did you go to school for this? Remember what you love about it. And the more they interacted with their students and families, the more excited they got about the learning process all over again. I think it took some of them to realize you can have a virtual connection that can actually even be stronger than that brick and mortar connection. Because in brick and mortar, there were some students that I never met their dads or their mom, depending on who they lived with. In brick and mortar, you are virtually, in virtual world, you're virtually in their homes with them. You see mom and dad at the back of the camera all day long. So you get to speak with them. You see their pets. You get to know those families much more intimately if you take the time and you really invest in that time and use it well. So here was our steps to success. I've mentioned them as we talked. Our goals here were to promote student growth and development. We want to see a 10% increase in math scores over the course of the school year. The test will be given at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, and we will also have interims that are going to be like October. I think we're going to have another one in March. So that will cover different times throughout the whole school year. And here's the really cool part.